You need to open your notebooks up to your table of contents because we are going to get started by updating our table of contents. All right, so take out your table of contents, and we're going to update the table of contents. We've already done these 2 pages here. I'm not going to put the date on here because it's going to be on the video, and I don't want to confuse anyone that's doing it. But please put your date. Whatever date you're doing this, put your date. This is today's date. All right. So for today's date, we are going to be covering a cell is like a spool. Everyone needs to put this in your table of contents. If you don't have your notebook, make sure you look so you know what to put. This is page 3. And because this is page 3, what is it telling us? Nope. It's on your side. And this is something that you're going to produce. And you are going to produce it based on what? What are you going to use to produce it? How are you going to come up with anything if you don't know anything? Where are you going to get that stuff from? My side, which is going to be page 4, which is Eukaryotic Cell Structure. So make sure that you update. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Then open up your notebook to page 3 and 4 and put the numbers 3 and 4 on them. No, nothing goes on together. I don't want to put anything on anything yet. After you put the table of contents, you open up your notebooks, page 3 and 4, and number those pages 3 and 4. 3 should be on one side of your notebook. The right or the left? Left. 4 should be on the right. Page 4 says Eukaryotic Cell Structure. So find your note sheet that says Eukaryotic Cell Structure. Because the 4 is what I'm giving you. Page 4 is what we're going to do together. Page 3 is what you're going to do by yourself. Yes. So everyone hold up the sheet that says Eukaryotic Cell Structure. Hold it up. Everyone hold up your eukaryotic cell structure. And then you are going to glue that on page 4. So remember 4 is on the right. You're going to take this page and glue it on page 4. Does everyone see that? Glue it down now. Glue it. So this is the page that you're gluing on page 4. And as we go through today's notes, you are going to be writing only on this page. Does everyone understand? Okay. So everyone look at this page now because we're going to begin. I do want to let you know that your homework will be to complete A Cell is Like a Spool because you won't finish it in class. You also need to study Discovery of a Cell, which were last class notes, and your notes from this class, Eukaryotic Cell Structure, because you will have a quiz next class. All right, looking at this paper, everyone look at the paper. Notice it looks just like yours. I'm going to be identifying and pointing out some things on the sheet before we get started and before we start to write on the sheet. First of all, I want you all to put your finger on function. Andre, sit down. The title is Eukaryotic Cell Structure. If you look at the title, everyone, the title underneath it tells you what a eukaryotic cell is. Animal cell, a plant cell, some fungi, and some protists. So you are a eukaryotic cell. You're an animal cell. You're made up of animal cells, and your cells are eukaryotic. Put your finger on function. Because the cell is like a city or like a body. And it has different functions, different things within the cell that have different functions. And those can be broken down into large categories. Boundary, cell control, assembly, transport and storage, and support. So we broke them down into different functions. So we're going to be looking, when I say look at the function area, notice those boxes are a lot bigger. You're going to look at that area. Once you found the actual function area, then you're going to be looking at the descriptions. Everyone point to description. Everyone point to description. Everyone point to description on your paper. Once you found the function, you're going to be looking at the description. The description describes what we're talking about, because we're going to talk about different parts of the cell, which are our organelles. Our organelles are parts of the cell. And we're going to be identifying parts of the cell. Function they belong under, what their descriptions are. Because like a city, because a cell can be looked at like a city as an analogy, our city has different parts in our city that have different functions. Correct? Okay. At the very top, remember we have a question. I want you to cross that question off. Don't cross off the word question, but cross off the question, like I've done up here. And then you are going to replace it with this question. All right. Everyone should have crossed off the question that's at the top and replaced it with the new question, with what is an organelle. Replace it with this question. And as we go through the lesson, you will be filling in all the blanks on here. So, what are we talking about today? We're talking about a eukaryotic cell, and we're talking about those organelles. What is it made up of? Meaning, what's its structure? So, a cell organelle, it means little organ. Like our body is made up of organs. We are a whole body, we have organs. A cell is made up of organelles, meaning little organs. Those are the parts of the cell. Where do you think you are writing this? Answer. You just wrote the question, what are organelles? So the answer is going to go right next to it, parts of cells. I know, I want you to do it here. So far we know what organelles are. Those are parts of cells. So we're going to be looking at all of the parts of the cells within the cell. We're going to be identifying it like a city, making an analogy so we better understand what happens inside the cell. On the sides, no. On the sides, you can probably jot down some clues and some notes to kind of help you. Everyone needs to get a highlighter because we are going to be highlighting something. I didn't tell you to highlight anything yet. I just said get a highlighter. All right. Our first organelle is cell membrane. Your cell membrane is the boundary around the cell. So if we identify this with a city, these would be your borders of your city because it holds everything in the city in. A cell membrane holds everything inside the cell. It's also like your bouncer or your borderline that you go for customs or something like that, where it identifies and says, okay, you can go out or you can come in. It stops things from going out or coming in. So if we're looking at our sheet, because you were just listening and watching there, I'm only doing a couple for you, then you're doing it on your own. What function should we be looking at for cell membrane? We definitely need to be putting our eyes towards boundary. What description should we be looking at? Look at it and then raise your hand. Keyshawn, tell me, what does it say? What does it say? Which description? Does this say anything about a bridge or a wall outside? Does this say anything about a rigid wall? Blending. Cytoplasm. It is the part that is surrounding the cytoplasm, holding organelles inside the cell, and this is called the cell membrane. Make sure you fill yours in. Guillermo, fill yours in with a pencil. Then highlight surrounds cytoplasm. Highlight surrounds cytoplasm. We'll talk about that in a moment. Now, as we go through, you see how it works. You're going to get information about an organelle. You're going to need to be looking, okay, where is this information at? So I can put that organelle inside that box for organelle. So our next organelle is the nucleus. The nucleus is like our city hall in our city because it's in the center of the city. It holds all of our information about the city. It stores our records like our birth certificates. Everything about the city is there, where the streets are, where buildings are, things of that nature. For the cell, your nucleus is your control center of the cell, and it directs the cell's activity. It tells the cell what to do. It contains DNA, which are your instructions for the cell. You two over there. Get your paper and look up here. So it tells the cell if it's going to be a heart cell or a brain cell. It holds within the cell your nucleolus. That's the center of the center, like our mayor would be the center of our city. The nucleolus is very important because it makes these funny little things called ribosomes. Looks like ribosomes, but it's ribosomes. Why are the ribosomes important? Because they make something called protein. Why is protein important? We need it for what? Energy. Good. And it's usually only one nucleus per cell. So what function, raise your hand, area should we be looking at, Ayana? What function? Christian, help us out. Cell control is where we need to be looking. What is the description that we need to be looking at, Chris? Directs activities of cells, which is what organelle again? The nucleus. Make sure you fill that in. We'll work on these blanks in just a second. It's not hard. It's right here. I'm putting it right on the screen for you. You just have to listen and focus. Now, Your nucleus holds what? What is the center of that nucleus? It's called the nucleolus. The nucleolus makes what? It starts with an R. Ribosomes. Good. And ribosomes make these important things called, make this important thing called protein. And why is protein important? Because it gives us energy. Very good. Over here, what you want to highlight is direct activity of cell. It's our control center. So you want to highlight direct activity of cell. All right. Our next organelle is called a cytoskeleton. Now, in our city, we have different things that hold our city together. It keeps our city in place. Like we have council members, we have council members, we have communities, people and things that hold our city together and stops our city from collapsing and becoming a horrible city. Your cell has a cytoskeleton which holds the cell together and stops the cell from collapsing. It keeps it in shape, not in shape like muscles, but keeps its shape of the cell. It provides the shape and the structure and support for the cell, like our skeletons within us. It keeps our shape and it provides support so we don't fall apart. And it helps your organelles to move around within the cell. What function should we be looking at? Glendy. Assembly, transport, and storage? No. Sierra? Support. And the only one there is helps keep the shape and stops it from collapsing. And what is that organelle again? Cytoskeleton. What you need to highlight over here is keep cell shape. And highlight the word support. And you need to be looking for this before. You need to be looking for this before I show you this, because I'm about to start moving a lot faster. I'm not going to be waiting for you. All right, our next organelle is called Endoplasmic Reticulum. Everyone say endoplasmic. Endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, now say endoplasmic reticulum. The endoplasmic reticulum is also called the ER, not the emergency room, just ER for endoplasmic reticulum. The endoplasmic reticulum in our city, if we were looking at our cell to be like a city, these would be our roads and our highways. And what are our roads and highways for? Traveling, for transporting things. Good. That's what your endoplasmic reticulum is for in your cell. It is for transporting things throughout the cell. It's the highway of the cell. It's connected to the nucleus because it has to get things from the nucleus. One of the major things are the ribosomes. That's why some of the endoplasmic reticulum are rough, because they have ribosomes, so they're bumpy roads. These would be your roads with all the potholes. Some endoplasmic reticulum are smooth. These would be your smooth roads. No bumps in them. So the endoplasmic reticulum, if you were jotting down some extra things to help you remember, these would be like your highways and your roads. Where should we be looking on here, Alyssa? Assembly, transport, and storage. What description, Zoe? Exactly. So it's our transporter. Highlight transports. And what is this called again? Endoplasmic reticulum, also known as ER. It's up to you, but you need to know what it's called. So I would put both if I were you. And again, you need to be getting this down before I show you this because I'm about to move. All right. Next, we have some funny little name called Golgi Apparatus or Golgi Body. It's named after a scientist whose last name was Golgi. Therefore, that's how it got its name. But it goes by two things, Golgi Apparatus or Golgi Body. Now, the Golgi Body, if we're looking at our city, then we would identify the Golgi Body to be like, this is the analogy of our city, this would be your post office. Because in your post office, what do? Well, before they do that, what do they have to do with the stuff? They have to package it and then ship it, send it off. This is what the Golgi apparatus or the Golgi body does in a cell. It packages it and it ships it off throughout the cell. And it puts it in these little vesicles like bubbles. Those little vesicles would be like your post office trucks or your postman trucks or cars. So those are very important. The reason why it says Golgi bodies is because it puts it in those little vesicles and it ships it off. So where should we be looking? Armani. Thank you. Do not yell out. What description should we be looking at? Sanabi. Yep. Sorts and packages proteins and materials. I want you to highlight sorts and packages. And then highlight the word shipped. Sorts, packages, and ships. And that's the Golgi body, also known as the Golgi apparatus. I would. Anything that's up here, I would highly suggest that you do it too. I'm going to move because the next time I show it will still be up there. Lysosomes. When you think of lysosomes, you can think of Lysol. What do you do with Lysol? You clean. You get rid of waste with it. You clean stuff up with it. Now, your lysosomes in our city called the cell would be like our garbage trucks. It gets rid of waste. These are your garbage men that come around and get rid of waste. Not every city has one. Therefore, your lysosomes are your garbage disposal. It removes waste. Look it up. It also contains some digestive enzymes to help break down some of the stuff that comes into the cell so that it can get rid of it. It's like your recycling area. And it's only in an animal cell. Where should we be looking? Sierra. Good. What descriptions are we be looking at? Lindy? Removes waste. Only an animal cell. Highlight that entire description. And what are these called again? Lysosomes. Our next organelle is the mighty mitochondria. It's mighty because it talks about how it has to do with power. In our cell city, this would be what? The power company, which is Duke Energy. Duke. I said in our cell city, what would this be? It would be Duke Energy. Because it is the powerhouse of the cell. It gives the cell energy. It's the mighty mitochondria. It's also responsible for cellular respiration, which we'll talk about later. So where are we looking? Where are we looking, Teray? Cell control? No. Where are we looking, Chris? Assembly, transport, and storage. What description are we looking at? Asanami? Provides energy for the cell. Highlight energy and powerhouse. And what is it called again? No? Mitochondria. The CH is pronounced like a K. Mitochondria. Hold on, she's talking. No, on mitochondria, you're highlighting energy and powerhouse. It looks like it. All right. Our next organelle is called, you understand that when I show it, it shows them all. So chill out. Rest your nerves. Chloroplast. Chloro means green. So what type of cell do you think this is going to be in? This is in your plant cells. It's only in green plant cells. Chloroplasts are very important because it contains something called chlorophyll, which gives the plants their green color, and it also helps plants make food. Find it on your paper. Where should we be looking? Glendy. Good. Aisha, where should we be looking? Kristen, do you have a problem with whom I'm calling? Yes, found in green plant cells, and some produce contains chlorophyll, which makes plants green. What I want you to highlight is green plant cells. I like green plant cells. Hold on. I want you to write these things in highlights. Green plant cells, highlight the word chlorophyll. And in that box, I want you to write makes food. Makes food. The plant cell is the only cell that makes its own food. Animal cells do not. So what cell is it only located in? The plant cells, the green plant cells, which is why you highlighted plant cells. What organelle is this? Chloroplast. All right. Your next organelle are vacuoles. Now, let me go back to chloroplast for a second because I didn't give you your analogy for chloroplast. Because it makes food, chloroplast for our city would be like our city missions or our food pantries. Not every city has one. Like, not every cell has a chloroplast. It provides food for the city. Your next is your vacuole. Your vacuole analogy for a city, this would be like our sewer because it stores water and it also removes waste. And that's where our water comes through. And it replenishes and it fixes it and it puts it back into our sinks and everywhere in our showers. In your cell, it does the same thing. It is bigger in a plant cell. You have a lot more in an animal cell, but they're smaller and they're responsible for storing water. Yes, it also sometimes stores food or and enzymes and waste, so it can get rid of waste. But its major function is to store water. Very important because if we don't have it in our plants go limp and brown and they die. If we don't have enough water in our bodies, we start to dehydrate and we could die. Our skin starts to look a little pearl and a little dry. We need to keep hydrated. What? Don't tell me. Raise your hand and I will call on you. Ayana, what function should we be looking at? I gotta call someone else because we gotta move. Keyshawn. Assembly, transport, and storage. Description we should be looking at. Janaya. Hey, Yana, if you're missing it, look up here and you see the eyes exactly where we're looking. Because look, it says function right there, Yana. Janaya. I'm not on you anymore. Used for storing water, food, and enzymes. I want you to highlight storing water. Everyone highlight storing water. And highlight the information about large single one in plants and many small in animal cells. You can highlight all that. What's your question? I wanted this, so that's what I was asking for. What organelle is this? The vacuole. Vacuole. Everyone say vacuole. Good. Our next organelle is cytoplasm. Here's your answer, Zoe. Your cytoplasm in our cell city would be like our air. Stuff that holds everything in there. Because in a cell, the cytoplasm is a jelly-like substance that holds everything in the cell. It stores everything in the cell. It is not an organelle. Although we have it under there, we're going to write that it's not an organelle. So where should we be looking, Andre? Function. Function. Boundary? Self-control. Description? Aisha? Yes, highlight all of that. Highlight liquid inside cells, stores organelles. And write the word in here, cytoplasm, put in parentheses, not an organelle. So put cytoplasm and put not an organelle. I'm telling you to do it now, sweetheart. Not an organelle. Although we put it up under here, it still has cell part under control because it holds all that stuff in there, like our air. Our air is not a part. So our cytoplasm is not really an organelle. It just holds all of your organelles. And then lastly, the cell wall. The cell wall for our city would be like a gate. Not every city has a gate around it. So not every cell has a cell wall. The gate is the protector of the cell. It keeps the structure of it and it protects that cell. Just like for your city. It is only in plant and bacteria cells. It's a rigid protector, meaning it's hard, it's tough, and it's made out of sugar. Cellulose is a sugar, and it's on the outside of the cell membrane. Where are we looking? Obviously, Keyshawn? Boundary, and it is a rigid wall outside of the plasma membrane. I want you to highlight wall outside plasma membrane. And then highlight not found in animal cells. Wall outside plasma membrane, not found in animal cells. Sorry, let it go. And what is this called again? Cell wall. I'm going to leave this up here for a second. Make sure that you have everything. I'm passing out a paper to you. Leave them on the table the way that I put them on the table. In front of you, you have a quiz. It is an open notes quiz. So you may use your notes. You may not use your partners. If you talk, you will receive a 0. On your papers that I passed out to you, go ahead and flip them over, put them in front of you. Put your first name, your last name, your block, and the date. There are 7 questions on there. You have 7 minutes. And that's a long time because you have your notes. I will also put the questions on this board so that you have them. Today is right up here. The date's up here. And then there is no talking. A talking results in a 0. I'm going to explain your homework to you. Your homework is to see if you understand the organelles or the parts of the cell. The best way to show that you understand is by showing an analogy. A cell is like a school. So we're going to look and see the parts of the school, how they are identified with the cell. So we're looking up here. What you're going to do is follow the directions. What these directions are telling you to do is you are going to be cutting out doors, and this is a door, and the windows of your school. Each window tells you a part of the cell. If you have the mitochondria, Endoplasmic Reticulum, Ribosomes, Golgi Apparatus, Cytoskeleton, Lysosomes, cell membrane, Vacuole, and Nucleus. Those windows are going to be, don't do anything yet, those windows are going to be open. So right now, what you're going to do first is you're going to highlight what I've written, what I've drawn in red. Highlight that because that's going to indicate what you are going to cut. So do that now. Also highlight the school all the way around because you're going to be cutting that out. But we're not cutting yet, you're just highlighting to remind you what you will be cutting. After you cut out all of your windows and your door, then make sure when you're cutting your door, you do not cut the two sides. These should not be cut, only what's in red. So after you do that, then you're going to cut your school out, okay? Once you cut your school out, instructions down here, then you're going to be gluing your school on page 3 because this is the page that you showed. Once you do that, all of your doors and your windows will all be opened up. Do not glue your windows down. Glue everything that hasn't been cut down, okay? So that everything will open up. Then you will go to your page that looks like this, and you stop with those scissors. And you will look through here and you will say, okay, which thing is like my mitochondria, which is your first window. And you will find whatever it is. You will then cut this out. When you cut that out, you will then open up your window or your door, wherever it is going, and you will glue it inside. One part will be glued to the window. The other part will be glued to the inside of your notebook. So that when it will go and when you open it up, it will say, what is the mitochondria like? Or the mitochondria is like a, and then you can open up and it will tell you what part of the school it's like and information there. You understand? I'm going to come around and show you my example.